to World Crisis Radio. So Nassim Taleb, the hedge fund hyena, the black swan, interviewed on Bloomberg and CNBC this week. He is frightened. He thinks that something's going to happen, and well, he might. Now, better late than never. You've got some kind of regulatory and indeed criminal response to the crimes of Wall Street finally emerging. Over the past couple of weeks, of course, we've had the Securities and Exchange Commission coming in with a civil suit against Goldman Sachs on their infamous Abacus synthetic CDO that has now been supplemented by a criminal investigation through the Department of Justice. Morgan Stanley in just about the same boat, possible civil suit and ongoing criminal investigation. We've got, finally, the Department of Justice, even under the feckless holder, the permanent bureaucracy has finally awakened from its slumbers. This is now an investigation against leading Wall Street hedge fund hyenas and zombie bankers for creating CDO squared, for creating synthetic CDOs, and loading them, quite frankly, with toxic junk. In other words, synthetic CDOs that are designed to fail so that hedge fund hyenas could short them and make a lot of money. And the suckers on the other end of the trade were left holding the bag. And don't tell me how sophisticated they were. If you were sophisticated, you wouldn't be in this bubble in the first place. Sophisticated investors are routinely blinded by greed and the herd instinct, right, to go along. Because if you don't go along and get those super profits, then your job is at risk. And we'll talk about the ratings agencies in a minute to tell you that it's absolutely reliable. So here's the list of the Wall Street zombies that are now under criminal investigation. Better late than never. J.P. Morgan Chase, Citibank, Deutsche Bank, Union Bank of Switzerland, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. And let me just give you the order in terms of the rankings of who issued the most synthetic CDOs. Citibank, under criminal investigation, number 1. Deutsche Bank of Germany, the number 2 producer of synthetic CDOs in the New York market. J.P. Morgan Chase, the number 5 CDO monger, also under criminal investigation. Morgan Stanley, the number 7 CDO monger under criminal investigation. Goldman Sachs, number 14, and I'm sorry I skipped over Union Bank of Switzerland, number 10. So SEC doing something, Department of Justice, some timid move. We should have had the perp walk for Jamie Dimon, for Pandit the Bandit, for Blankfein, for Mac, and these other characters. We don't have that. We have a very timid investigation going on. And we've got the politically ambitious, but that is welcome to us, New York State Attorney General Andrew Cuomo is investigating these wretched ratings agencies, Fitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's, their corruption, their malfeasance, their unreliable, useless, worthless ratings, even though these rating agencies have up to now enjoyed quasi-legal status. In other words, their ratings were built into the public laws of the United States. Well, it turns out that Moody's has received a Wells notice from the Securities and Exchange Commission that they are under Securities and Exchange Commission investigation, which can lead to criminal referrals. But what Cuomo is doing is looking at these agencies, Fitch, Moody's, and Standard & Poor's. How is it that these agencies were issuing AAA, investment-grade, top-of-the-line ratings for these toxic synthetic CDOs issued by the various Wall Street miscreants until practically the end, until very late in the day? So that's something. So we've got the SEC on one front, the Department of Justice on another front. We've got the Cuomo office there in New York State coming in. This is something. This gets us going, and as the crimes of these bankers are made known, we've got to head towards the public epiphany, the Pecora hearings moment, when we get as we did between 1933 and 1934, the whole sewer of Wall Street corruption, and the fact that these people do not pay taxes. They don't pay taxes on their turnover. A lot of them find ways to avoid the personal income tax, and the companies don't pay the corporate income tax. So if you're overtaxed, look to these bums and get them to pay their fair share. That would be the Tobin tax, the Robin Hood tax. And we're happy to see that the famous actor Russell Crowe is now supporting the Wall Street sales tax, Tobin tax, Robin Hood tax. The more the merrier. Let's get some stars and some celebrities on board to popularize this entire thing. And again, the media is still talking about a ban on CDOs. Now, concretely, what can we hope for? The Wall Street reform bill is in front of the Congress here. And let's see what the status is on some of these provisions. The Senate has passed a provision that the interest rates on debit cards will be regulated. That's the good news. Bad news is that they're going to be regulated by the Federal Reserve. Well, fine. Get the Federal Reserve in there and make them more and more of a public good. And if people realize that their debit card fees and interest rates are being jacked up by Bernanke at the Federal Reserve, that will keep him in the headlines as a public menace, as he deserves to be. The Fed has also won a lopsided vote in terms of the ability of the Fed to regulate the smaller banks, community banks. They've been kept under the aegis of the Fed. So those are losses. However, there are some wins. There are some gains on the rating agencies' front. The goal here is essentially some of the things the Republicans are better at proposing is to lift the public endorsement. The legal status of these rating agencies must end. They are indeed an illegal cartel, a state-sponsored compulsory cartel of the main ratings agencies. That has got to end. We've also got to have an end to agency shopping. In other words, if I'm some kind of a stock jobber and I want to issue a stock, I go around to the rating agencies and I'll say, what kind of rating will you give me? And if they say, we'll give you an A, I'll say, I'm going someplace else, and I try to pay them more, and maybe they give me double A or triple A. So you can see the obvious conflict of interest that is built into this. So that has got to end. The other one that we want to keep an eye on is this Volcker rule. And this means a step at least towards the restoration of the Glass-Steagall firewalls. Again, commercial bank is one thing. Stock jobbing operation is another thing. Insurance company is a separate thing. Pick one. No more than one. Only one. No mixing of these. So generally that would mean commercial banks cannot do derivatives trading. They've got to divest their derivatives desk and proprietary trading desk, because that is how the CDOs of Citibank and so forth have cost so much. Citibank, by the way, taking a 4 to 5% dive today, along with many European bank shares. So we want the Volcker rule as a minimum. We want more. We want Glass-Steagall. But there's also the Blanche-Lincoln amendment from the Senate Ag Committee that says that banks are not allowed to engage in derivative speculation. That's the one that Wall Street hates, fears the most, wish to maintain their derivatives trading, and of course that's the origin of this systemic crisis. So get involved on that Volcker rule, up derivatives. Let's see here, obviously, is any ban of credit default swaps. Remember that credit default swaps are already illegal because they represent selling insurance when you have not met the legal requirements, the capital requirements, and the reinsurance requirements to be an insurance company. So get in there and strike at the hedge funds, strike at the derivatives, and we'll be back in a minute.